Hey, welcome back everyone to Mr. Harmon's World History class. So as you can see on the slide on the screen that I still have kept the last slide from the last episode. So this is 24.5 part one, but that's the last slide of 24.4. And why? Well, I just want to do a quick reminder and review. So as you're watching my videos, you should be pausing the screen and writing things down as you go. Remember that when you write, you remember. And so write some notes. Focus on the boldface print, but also when I'm focusing on something, try and focus on that in your notes as well. So for example, when I put down May 8th, which is VE Day at the bottom of the screen, that's Victory in Europe Day. Remember, as you backtrack in your minds, what happened before VE Day? Well, in April, Hitler kills himself. What happens before that? We have the liberation of the concentration camps of the Holocaust. What happens before that? We have Soviet Union standing their ground at Stalingrad and forcing the German forces back towards Europe. We have us invading Western France in Normandy on June 6, 1944. We have us, of course, back in 1942, attacking Northern Africa and starting our advance into Europe. So all of that's happening. But remember that we break the cardinal sin of military strategy and we actually engage in a two-front war. So not only are we fighting here in Europe in the early 1940s, we're also fighting here. Right there. There's Japan. And we're going to be fighting throughout this area. Oh, I'm like a weather person trying to figure this out behind me, right? So we are fighting throughout all of this region here. And this is thousands upon thousands of miles. And that's going to be known as the Pacific Theater. All right. So the war in Asia, our last section. We should always know, and you should definitely be writing this, and I think this is the largest font I've used so far for a bullet at least, and that's December 7, 1941. So we have the bombing of Pearl Harbor. But let's also remember, too, that it wasn't just Hawaii that gets bombed. So when the Japanese forces attack on December 7th, Japan is up here. They're also going to attack down in the Philippines, and they're going to be attacking several different locations throughout southern Pacific Ocean. This is going to be a military strike that was very systemic, very organized, and very well executed. So in early 1942, as we are beginning to make the decision to be offensive in Europe and defensive in the Pacific Theater, Japan's going to be occupying places like Guam and Wake and Singapore and Dutch East Indies and French Indochina, and they're going to be rapidly advancing throughout this region. Specifically, an area that's going to be taken by the Japanese is the Philippines. Now, the Philippines, as you remember in our history class from the Spanish-American War of 1898, the Philippines have become kind of a territory, or at least, if we will use the term, a colony of America. And the Philippines were going to be defended by General Douglas MacArthur, who is an important war general in this military, or in this war. But we're going to lose the Philippines. So it says right here, on the largest island, the Japanese marched 70,000 American and Filipino defenders 63 miles upon the Bataan Peninsula to a prison camp. Now, this prison camp was not your normal prison camp. There was torture, there was awful conditions, there was a lack of food for our soldiers, but more than 7,000 of our soldiers died just on the march itself, and it's known as the Bataan Death March. So again, boldface print, but that's something you should research on your own. Learn more about the Bataan Death March, okay? So knowing this, in 1942, December 7th, 41 is pretty much over, right? So let's just take the year of 1942, the year of my dad's birth, actually, right? But 1942, Japan's going to be winning this game. If this is a football game, they are winning the first half in a major way, okay? All right, so again, I'm trying to get you this idea of where we are in the world. So here is China. This is the Korean Peninsula. This is Japan. And you can see with the purplish area, these are the territories that Japan was controlling. This down here, that's the northern tip of Australia right there. So that's what that part of the picture is showing. So you can see the Japanese are coming towards one of our major British and American allies of Australia. Here is Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. There is Midway over here. So we're going to have some key battles. So knowing this slide, if you want to pause the screen and start looking at some of these names, they might pop up later on. Like, for example, there's the Coral Sea battle down here, and there's Guadalcanal, and here are the Philippines. And here's Okinawa, and here's Iwo Jima. So knowing coming into some of these battles, those are going to be key things. Another picture I put on the slide was this one. So obviously it's an airplane. I don't have to explain that. But the airplane is on an aircraft carrier in the Pacific Ocean. Remember that this theater is going to be mostly a naval Air Force battles all throughout the oceans. This is not a land-based war, but a water-based war. So it's really important to start to shift how we use our personnel and forces. All right, that's just a reminder of what happens on December 7, 1941. And I also want to put in this headline here. It says Japan strikes all over Pacific. It wasn't just Hawaii. It wasn't just Pearl Harbor. It was throughout Pacific. All right. So as this war begins, Japan was winning the Pacific War, as I said. We're going to have all sorts of different things happening throughout this. But in response, President Roosevelt wanted to launch a surprise strike on the Japanese mainland. Bombers taking off an aircraft carrier. April 18th, 1942, 16 bombers took off from the U.S. carrier Hornet, which was within 650 miles of Japan, to bomb Tokyo and other Japanese cities. The surprise attack did little damage, but it thrilled and inspired Americans while shocking the Japanese. So there is going to be some evidence that I present to you maybe later on this video or another one, but the use of the atomic weapon and whether or not we should have done that. Many Americans said, well, it was a revenge for the attack on Pearl Harbor. Well, as I mentioned, it's early 1942. It's about 5 months after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. We launched a surprise attack on mainland Japan, specifically the capital of Tokyo. You could almost say that was actually the rebuttal for Pearl Harbor. So when we're looking at the atomic weapon later on, think about that. Okay. Japan's also planning on attacking Australian forces in the Coral Sea. So the resulting Battle of the Coral Sea in May of 42 was the first battle in this World War II, but also in human history thing that was completely naval based with aircraft. So we've always had naval battles going all the way back for hundreds of years, but now the air attacks that happened in this battle were all launched from aircraft carriers in the water, which was kind of unique. Okay. All right, another one that you can watch for your movie selections is Midway. It's a relatively new movie. It just came out a few months ago, but this is going to be one of the key military battles in the Pacific Theater. The Allies are going to stop the Japanese expansion. So as the Japanese are attempting to expand further west, further into the Pacific Ocean as well as southward, Midway is going to be a key battle. The new U.S. naval forces attempt to contain the Japanese by stopping their militaristic expansion. American forces achieve a big battle victory at the Battle of Midway in 42. Okay, the Navy waited for the Japanese fleet, and when it was in range, American planes from Midway and 3 aircraft carriers demolished the enemy force. So remember that some of these battles are like big moments in games. Although the Japanese were kind of ahead in 1942, we were making big plays, and the big plays were key battles, not only keeping us in the conflict, but making some headway against the Japanese forces. Okay, I am going to stop right here for this video for part 1. So I'm going to stop at Midway as our part 1. I'll continue for part 2 after that. All right, have a great day. Hope you're enjoying what you're learning. Thanks.